I have the pleasure today of being joined by Anthony Woods. Now, Anthony is the co-founder at Grafana Labs. Anthony, so great to see you. Thanks for making time to catch up with me.
Thanks, Des. It's great to be here.
So for our audience today, we're going to have a conversation with Anthony around his role, how he came to where he is currently with regard to co-founding this amazing organization, Grafana Labs. So we're going to get a bit of a what's a day in the life of a co-founder at Grafana Labs look and feel and see what he's up to, what sort of things that they're helping their clients address and solve with their amazing platform. Got some exciting news, which I won't give away yet, but he's got an announcement coming as well, which is looking forward to sharing some details on. We're going to be getting a 30,000 foot overview of the organization as well. I guess sort of a little bit of a history of kind of where they've come from and where they are today, and again some of the things that they're helping some of their clients solve. We're going to talk about their exciting gold sponsorship of ExecOps Melbourne event, which is on October the 22nd. And by the way, wherever you see this, whether it's on our YouTube channel or on digital social platforms, we will have links to everything, to the BeerOps.io website, where we'd like you to go and learn more about the event and register, where you can learn all about Grafana Labs and certainly follow Anthony and his professional profile. Anthony, I wonder if you could kick us off just with a little bit of a background on yourself and how you came to co-found this amazing company.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Des. So, I'm a local Perth boy. So I grew up in Perth. Started my first job career at INET, the ISP, which is an amazing group of people I got to work with and got to dabble in so many different things, right? So networking, infrastructure, systems, some software. Then spent a lot of my time kind of building glue that would sync those together. My career then took me to Singapore, which is a beautiful city, and that's where I met Raj, my other co-founder and our CEO. He had a managing hosting company. I worked with him. That was great. A lot of experience, working with customers with problems, constant problems and helping them. And again, building a lot of kind of automation and tooling. And then I thought, oh, I'm getting a bit burnt out. I want to go on, work for a big enterprise company, not have to build all my own tools and could just use this great enterprise software that, I'd heard so much about. And so I went and worked at Visa, and it was an enlightening experience, right? One, to discover how horrible the software was. But two, I also had a great manager, and I had a lot of flexibility where I could start replacing some of these very expensive tools with things that I could build myself. And so, I had this new kind of, motivation and realization that I was capable of building great software, as well as, really, really understanding how underserved the market was. So I went and worked with Raj for a little bit after that. We talked a lot about wanting to go and do a startup, and eventually pulled the trigger. And so we wanted to do something in the kind of observability space, using tools. And then we knew about Grafana, the open source project, which was just going gangbusters. Everyone was loving it, and so we reached out to Torkel. We got to know him really well. We all had a great kind of shared vision for what we could do with Grafana and a great set of complementary skills, that we invited him to just come on as a co-founder. So that's kind of how the company got started. And we set out of like, hey, we'll just focus on building this great open source technology. We want to make it the best that's out there, help people be really successful, and we'll worry about how to make money later. And so that's kind of the origin story of how we go. And then we kind of grew from that, learning from our customers and from our users about what challenges they were having, and then building more and more products to kind of solve those problems. So eventually we built, this complete observability platform, right? So helping them really understand their software and their infrastructure, and not just to know that it's broken, but also, when things do go wrong, to be able to have the data that you need to dive in there, understand exactly what's happening, and go and find that root cause.
Fantastic. I wish I'd bumped into you in Singapore. We could have shared some chili crab, one of my favorites, hanging out in Sentosa Island for a good time. Yeah, Grafana is a well-known tool, open source, and it's amazing to get the insight into kind of how you guys got to where you are now with regard to Grafana Labs. When I think about that evolution of it, and I was looking at sort of the one-liner that sort of comes up on the top of your website when you have a look at it, that sort of, that whole open and composable observability platform. I looked and went, you know what? That's a great one-liner, but I'm going to get Anthony to give us a bit more of a 30,000 foot overview, because when I think about where you've come from with regard to Grafana itself as an open source project versus where you are now, you're an amazingly more complex and capable organization, and particularly now with the emergence of AI, which we'll get into a bit more detail now. But if we were to, hand you a whiteboard marker and say, draw us a diagram of, as it were, figuratively speaking, of kind of what Grafana Labs is today, with what you've just shared in mind of kind of where you've come from. How do you describe the amazing things that you guys can do currently? What's sort of the 30,000 foot overview of what Grafana Labs is today and the sorts of things you can help people with?
Yeah, and so thanks for the opportunity, right? Because we still, certainly have a lot of challenges where there's a lot of people that know the Grafana open source project so well, kind of
Mm,
like suffer from our own success, right? And they know that so much, and they don't know so much about all the other things that we can do. And so really, we've kind of evolved from that, building, the kind of the industry de facto kind of standard for dashboarding and visualization into now that complete observability solution. So, really what we want to try and help people do is, solve problems. Our open source software has always been about building tools and enabling people to, take those tools and do amazing things with them. We see that a lot of people use it, for their IT operations metrics, but we see people who will use it for, power stations, or they'll use it at home for, monitoring their temperature in their rooms or their bees. And so, we built this open source that's designed to be flexible and capable, and you can use it. But then, the feedback we were getting from customers was like they didn't want all this choice and this flexibility. They really wanted us to leverage our experience in the industry to just help them do the right thing, right? To take away a lot of the choices. And so that's where we built our Grafana Cloud Platform, right? So this open composable platform, it takes all the open source technology that's used, but then we kind of are packaging it up in a more opinionated, kind of out of the box solutions, right? So you don't have to think about, well, what's the best way to go and monitor this certain thing, right? You can just point and click, and we'll go and give it to you. And so it's really about kind of accelerating that time to value for our customers. We're still leveraging the open source technology, right? But we're building some more opinionated solutions on top of that to give them what they need. People are tired and have a lot of things to do. And so, we certainly see this in the industry, the shift towards more SaaS-based models where, people just want it to be somebody else's problem, right? Like you've got a
right.
finite number of engineers, you want them really working on what's core to your business. You don't want to have to go and build a specialized observability team, right? We've already done that. We've got the experts there. We can help you do that, efficiently and quickly. And so that tool we've just continued to build on, and make it really polished. We were really excited this year when the Gartner Magic Quadrant came out for observability, where we're named, in the top right. So we are the most, furthest to the right on, ability to innovate, and I think, third from the top on kind of execution. So, like the industry is now starting to see what it is we've been able to do. We've kind of just, popped out and we're like, oh, who's this Grafana people? But, we've got, more than a decade of actually doing this and helping customers be successful. And now the product has really come together. It's really polished. And
Fantastic.
now we're layering in, a lot of new AI capabilities as well, which we're really excited about, which are actually driving a lot of utility. We just mentioned, right, we announced our, the public release of our Grafana Assistant. So we announced that at our ObsCon conference last week in London. So that's now GA. People can go and, start using that and get access to, an assistant that can actually help you be more productive in your job and help us solve a lot of problems for you.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I personally sort of known Grafana and certainly what you've been doing with regard to Grafana Labs in the full stack, sort of from infrastructure observability all the way up to application level. I was really excited when you guys introduced the combination of synthetic modeling and performance testing, because all of a sudden that sort of expanded. So you had sort of had the full vertical stack, and now you had a more broad capability from the testing side of the world before stuff even went to production potentially, and then also the synthetic model monitoring. To see now your general availability or GA availability of your AI assistant, when we're talking offline, and I was sort of trying to summarize it, and I'd love to position this for you to correct me and fill the gaps in. But when you described your AI assistant as an amazing new capability within the Grafana Cloud Platform, with everything I understand from data analysis to creating dashboards and then extending the root cause analysis that you already have capabilities in. It sort of seemed to me like you had this sort of combination of Gen AI that you could talk to your Grafana environment, everything within, as well as, from what I understand, an agentic AI and MCP server connectivity that could be all integrated, so that now I can have a plain language conversation with my environments and ask it questions as if I was just talking to a human rather than clicking and looking at flashing lights.
Yeah, no, that's pretty spot on. That's exactly what the team has set out to build. We wanted to take this approach of, how do we give the AIs access to your data in a safe way, right? Where they can then leverage that to then, formulate new questions, right? So this agentic model,
Yeah,
of doing these investigations, and that has worked really well and it's been really powerful. And, one of the great things is that it's great for everybody, right? It's great for people who aren't that familiar with the tool set, right? Where they can come in and they can just use the natural language to say, this is what the question that I have, can you provide me an answer? But it also really helps, those that are more senior, right, who kind of know what they want, but they can just now get things done much faster, right, because they can
yeah,
give it much better prompts. And one of the things that we've been really surprised about is when we, the team built this, late last year, they built it just through an internal hackathon, right, which we run every quarter. We were just amazed at how well it worked. And so, we asked the team, it was just two guys that had worked on it just to start off with. We were like, why does this work so well? And they were like, we don't know, it just does.
The
But the more
magic of
time
AI.
it is, yeah, but we understand because we know there's a lot of, we've got competitors in the space that we know are also working on these, type of capabilities, but they
Yeah.
haven't, brought anything to market yet. And so, as we kind of thought about it, we came to the realization that we're in a, really unique position where, because of our open source nature of our business, so, our code base, most of the code is open source, but also we have this massive, open source community, right? We've got 25 million plus, Grafana users out in the wild, and they use Grafana, they blog about it, they talk about it, there's just all this content that's out on the public internet, and
Yeah.
that's content that is used by the off-the-shelf models when they're trained, right? So what we found is the off-the-shelf models, they already understand our technology, they already understand the use cases of what our users are trying to do, and so they've been really effective at just being able to get the job done, right? We haven't had to go and invest massively in data scientists to go and train our own models and do all the really expensive things. We can really just focus on building a much better kind of integrated solution into the platform itself, and provide it with the context of how to use some of the tools that we have. And so through all of this, we're able to kind of iterate really fast and bring something to market that is not just a whole bunch of hype, right? It actually has a lot of utility, and it's actually really exciting to see the value that our users are getting out of it.
Yeah, I love that. And I was talking to someone recently, they haven't announced the product yet, so I won't give away their secret. But one of the phrases they talked about was, voice is the new application or the user interface. And when I was looking at, some of your key capabilities that you list on the website, whether it's AI and machine learning insights or your contextual root cause analysis, your service level objectives management, some of the alerting and so forth and so forth. And then also, the testing and the monitoring and training environments. What struck me was that you're going to have this combination now with your AI assistant where you could either have like an app store of pre-built prompts that have been tested and proven to give an outcome in the same way we might have a report produced in hard coding. Now the prompt can do it and be edited. But also the thing that really struck me was now you can play personas and say, act like a network engineer. Tell me why this matters to me from a router switch or server point of view, or act as a cybersecurity expert and tell me what potential risks I've got in this policy instead of open ports, all the way through to I'm head of service level management. What sort of concerns should I have with regard to the last 90 days of performance data and outages? And I saw this as being sort of almost a case of like an entirely new business unit that is likely to open up for you, where you've got this consulting advisory element just inside your AI space, where you've got non-techies who can now leverage technical capabilities of your AI assistant to get really great insights into what is effectively a very technical environment that you operate as your platform. This to me is going to be an exciting new space to get into, so much so I'm dying to get my hands on it as well. But we might have you back on the show again to talk about that in more detail later. But I also wanted to congratulate you on your gold sponsorship of the ExecOps in Melbourne. Firstly, on behalf of the team that Stephen runs with regard to the BeerOps and ExecOps community, I just want to say thanks for supporting that ecosystem. I'm a media partner, as I mentioned to you off the air, but just looking at what you guys do to make these events possible, supporting them, funding them is just a game changer. I'm really keen to get your insights around sort of, events like this. I mean, Stephen describes the ExecOps and BeerOps community as Australia's largest tech networking conference, which is very, very accurate. I've been to a few of them myself. I love the fact that they're in a 3D experience with human beings and rubbing elbows rather than 2D on screen after all the lockdowns. What do these kinds of events bring to an organization like yours there at Grafana Labs? I imagine it's an opportunity to mix with all kinds of walks of life and technical skills, roles, ages, responsibilities, and so forth. Because as we know, DEI is a big part of what Stephen's all about as far as inclusivity. But I like the inclusion element of all ages, all backgrounds, all skills or experience, whether you're a graduate through to a CEO, a co-founder like yourself, through to a developer who's just started out. What does an event like this bring to you guys as an organization?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really resonates well with us, from a cultural perspective, right? Being very open source, right? We're very, much about including, right, the community, right? Getting out there, right? Like we have a saying of build better together, right? Like,
Right.
and so getting out there and talking to people we think is really important. There's a lot that we can learn, but there's also a lot that we can share. But also, we like to, certainly sponsor events because we just want to encourage more of those conversations, right, between people, right? Because, you know, there's, people have a lot of challenges and a lot of, problems that they're looking to solve, but they're not alone, right? There's so many people that are having similar challenges and similar problems. And so when you can come together and you can share how you've solved, your little piece, and then someone solved some other little piece, that kind of collaboration comes together, helps you get a better understanding of how you can, more quickly go and address, kind of all the challenge that you're facing. I think just, getting out there and communicating, I think really is really important. I also think it's, really important, certainly like for this region, right? Like I'm really grateful, it's my role when we started Grafana Labs, it started as the CTO, worked very hard for a long time and mostly worked at nights, right? Just because of being in Australia, very different time zone to the rest of the company. And so that took its toll on me. And I'm, really fortunate that now we have Tom Wilkie, who's our CTO. He's a much better CTO than I am, and a great product visionary, and he's been amazing. But it's given me the time to get back into the local region and go out to events and go and speak to people, which is what I spent a lot of my time doing. And it's definitely, I think, in Australia, I think, we need more people kind of communicating about, the technology stack that we're doing. We see this kind of trend in Australia where it's a little bit slower to adopt, technology, than the rest of the world. I think some of that is, just, we're so isolated here.
Yeah.
So it's good to go and, talk more about, what are the new ways that we're approaching problems and how we go about doing that. And I think the other big reason why we're a little bit delayed is really around kind of risk tolerance. People kind of want to wait until it's proven technology before they, start to get their hands on. But with the speed of innovation that's happening at the moment, it goes from proven to, superseded very quickly. And so like getting out there and talking to people what they're doing and having confidence knowing what other people are doing so that you feel confident that you can go and try it as well, I think is really important. So we want to kind of encourage that, encourage
Yeah.
the kind of the ecosystem, right, to start kind of pushing the boundaries of what's possible and get excited about new technology that's coming about, new capabilities coming about, and get some excitement from others, but also excite others to the possibility that we can all do better, right? There's ways that we can kind of iterate and improve over time, and that's really what we want, right? Everyone wants to be able to wake up and make the world a little bit better every day.
We do indeed, and there's no better way to do that than to actually be in front of real humans. I've always been of the opinion at the grand old age of 58, I keep saying this to everybody around me, including our kids, there is no substitute to being in front of people and talking directly to them, and people do business with people no matter how much marketing we try. So I think that, yeah, the great outtakes there. On the other side of the coin, you do a lot of events, as you said, you run your own events, you take part in industry events, and a bunch of these community events, and certainly the likes of ExecOps and BeerOps. What sort of advice would you share as a penultimate expert in the space that attendees coming to the event could use to get the most out of it? What sort of homework should they do beforehand? What sort of prep work should they do? And then on the day itself, what sorts of things should they be thinking about, and how should they approach it so they can get the best out of the event and certainly maximize the opportunity to speak to the likes of yourself and your team there at Grafana Labs on the night?
Yeah, I think there's two pieces to it. I think the one is, having a kind of clear set of questions that you want to try and answer, right? So that way you can come in and you can ask those questions, right? Like if there's a certain problem or there's a certain, sort of technology that you want to learn about. I think that's important. But the other one I think is really coming in with a very open mind, right?
Mhm.
Coming in, hearing what other people are saying, the communication is good, right? And communication goes two ways, right? You want to do a little bit of talking, but also you want to do a lot of listening, right? There's going to be a lot of people there. And it really comes down to, what it is that you're trying to get out of it. And the most important thing is really just to go and talk to people. Like you go to a lot of these events, it can be a little bit awkward sometimes to just go and just start a new conversation with somebody. Beer helps with that, obviously, but it can be great to just feel comfortable, right? We're all in a very similar situation, so just take advantage of the fact that you're there, you're with all these people. There is a huge amount of knowledge in the rooms, and the best way to do that is to go and have conversations with people.
Perfect. And there's one other tip I'll drop in. One of my previous guests earlier in the week gave me this one. It's a bit of a cheat. She said that she will always, prior to an event, do homework on the relevant folks she wants to speak to, learn a bit more, as you said, about the actual brands and the companies and what they do. But she would reach out through LinkedIn or some other fashion and actually say, hey, Anthony, I'm going to be there on the night. Any chance I could set a time to actually meet with you and get 15 minutes just to chat and basically book an appointment? I was like, what an amazing cheat sheet, which was funny because she's from a cybersecurity background. So for our audience, Anthony's advice is all bang on the money, but also consider the idea of reaching out early and just make contact, say, could I get a slot? Can I meet you on your Grafana Labs booth and have a conversation 15 minutes this time? And I'm sure Anthony will say, yeah, that would be great. I look forward to seeing you. I will dedicate some time to.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
definitely keen for that.
yep,
When I'm there, I want to maximize, my time and how
absolutely.
best I can do that. But we will have a group of great people at our booth come over and talk to that as well because there's lots of great conversations. Even other people at the booth, right? Like,
Definitely.
they may have, similar experiences to you, and it's always good to just engage and see what you can learn.
Fantastic. Well, for our audience, wherever you see this, we will have, as I said earlier, links to everything, links to the BeerOps.io website, where you not only learn more about the upcoming events on October the 22nd in Melbourne, but also October the 28th in Sydney, and you'll be able to learn all about Grafana Labs and their sponsorship in the Melbourne event. But we also will have links to Grafana Labs and their website. Highly recommend that you not only go and visit the website, but bookmark it. Bookmark their blog, bookmark some of their news pages, but also spend some real time in both their community and event space and their resources space. They've got a whole bunch of other things around how to and learns and documents and so forth, and a range of stuff there. But have a look in see what other events they're doing, learn about some of the stuff they do themselves. They run some really great events around observability and so forth in Grafana. But also just keep across what they're doing with their blogs and articles, their webinars and videos, and read some of their documentation. They've got great tutorials, great workshops. This is a really great whole thing called, I think it's Learning Journeys from Memory. And also get up to speed with the professional services they offer, because sometimes, no matter how smart we think we are, the best way to get an outcome is get some consulting and professional services advisory from the very company or their partners to implement the solution. Because if you're a bank or an airline and so forth, that's your core business, you may not be a technical organization. So partner with them and leverage their capabilities. Anthony, so great to see you. Thanks for making time to catch up with me. We will definitely have you back on the show to talk more, not only about your new AI assistant launch, but also some of the deeper capabilities of what Grafana Labs is offering, and particularly some of the challenges that your clients are facing that you're helping with. But in the meantime, safe travels. We look forward to seeing you at ExecOps in Melbourne. And again, congratulations on your gold sponsorship there. And we'll look forward to catching up with in person on the night of the event.
Yes, I'm very excited. Thanks a lot for the time today, Des. It's been great chatting to you.
Absolutely. Thanks very much. Appreciate it, Anthony.